Well, we've had so many of them saved. I baptized nearly 3,000 people during the days I was pastor of the First Baptist Church. Some of them have been very fruitful, I know. There was a fellow who was the provost marshal at Elmendorf Air Force Base named Murdock. I don't know how Murdock happened to come to our church. He was from Arkansas, but I guess somebody invited him, and he came into our church and got saved, and I baptized him. I was going to Fairbanks for a revival the next Sunday. I announced on Sunday night that Major Murdock will preach for me next Sunday. He demurred, threw up his hand, I can't preach, I don't know how to preach. I said, well, position you're in, you can say something. I left it at that. Murdock got up the next Sunday morning and he said later, said, man, I worked all the week and I wrote that sermon out and I went over my notes over and over again. He said, I got up in that pulpit and forgot everything I had even thought about. And so I just began to tell him how I was saved and why I was saved and what a difference it had made in my life and how happy I was to be a Christian. And just kept on telling him what a difference it had made in my life in a week's time. And he gave an invitation, and 7 grown men walked down the aisle and trusted Jesus Christ as their Savior. And that was just the beginning for Murdock. He got promoted after a while to lieutenant colonel. He had an old boy in his office who was an atheist. Well, through Murdock's prayers and me witnessing to him, his name was Jack Donahue. We won him to the Lord. And Murdock and Jack was transferred to Rapid City, South Dakota when they left here to an air base there. And they went around town looking for a Baptist church, couldn't find one, decided to start one. And they started. Got a few Baptists together, rented a little old place, and started having church services, and Murdock was doing the preaching. And he and Jack stayed there, and that mission finally developed into a church, and they organized a church, and finally got big enough where they called a full-time pastor. And then Murdock and Jack Donahue went to the next town just below Rapid City, down there to a small town, and started the mission there. And that's how our Baptist work got started in that whole area of the country, was through the work of Murdock. We called him Murdock. Murdock came back up here. He was my educational director and the business manager of the church for some time. He married one of our ladies, who was Ruth Wood. She was our church secretary. And when they left here, they went down to Soldotna, homesteaded down here. Murdock bought a two-man sawmill from Sears and Roebuck, sawed logs and built the church down there in Soldotna. And he preached there until they could get a preacher. And from time to time, as preachers came and went, he was their interim pastor and always out there witnessing, winning people to Jesus. And the First Baptist Church in Soldotna as a result of his work. You see, Jesus gave us a parable. The sower went forth to sow. He ends that parable by saying some seed fell on the good ground and brought forth fruit. Some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. So here was one who brought forth fruit about 100-fold. That was a blessing. Blessing to me, blessing to our work here in Alaska, blessing to God's work down in the Dakotas and that whole area of the United States. It's been a joy to me to see men like that go out and really count for God, really be something for God. And I've often said, well, if I die today, my work will go on through all these preachers, all these people. I've won to Jesus. It ought to last through those whom they'll win and those whom they influence to become preachers and missionaries until Jesus comes again. I hope so. Anyway, that it will never die, that the influence will be like a pebble cast onto the calm waters of a mirrored lake, that the ripples would just go on and on and on and on and on and never stop.